Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Metal Slug Tactics because as I write this script, I have now beaten the game about 4 separate times. I've done different builds, I've tried different tactics, and I mostly enjoyed this game, but it has a big problem. I think it lacks depth. But let's discuss. I hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's begin by trying to explain what Metal Slug Tactics is. So back in the day, there was a very popular arcade game called Metal Slug. It was a run and gun shooter. You're constantly just blasting, throwing grenades, and trying not to get hit. If you were touched, you insta-died. It was an incredibly addictive game with great art, and I have a lot of very fond memories of playing it in a barbecue joint up the street pretty much every single week I could for my entire childhood. But it combines the quirkiness of Metal Slug with combat that is essentially like Final Fantasy Tactics, another game that I very much love. But the final product, the biggest issue with it is both of those ingredients, that's a Reese's Pieces of magic. The problem is the roguelike elements. So every time you play this game, it is very much different. The core concept though, let's start with that. So in Metal Slug Tactics, because this is a grid-based battler, you pick a 3-man team. You can get people with different abilities, different stuff where some people have sniper rifles or shotguns or a really nice critting pistol or something like a big old grenade launcher. But when you drop into the field, each mission has randomized objectives, so sometimes you're trying to escort a VIP target or destroy an enemy convoy, or sometimes just trying to survive for as many turns possible. But when you're playing this, what's kind of cool about it is that because these objectives are randomized, you really do get a pretty good variance on how different each map can play out. So each run of this can be beaten in about an hour, like 45 minutes to an hour. If you're not getting too screwed up, you can beat this game pretty quick. But it's not just about hitting the ending credits, it's about that next run because of the roguelike elements. Now, if you've never played a roguelike, it essentially means that there is just parts of it that constantly build up your characters, but a different way every time. So like if you're playing Hades or Slay the Spire, there's that fun addictiveness to it where you really don't know every time you press new game. It's difficult to predict how that next run will go because as you complete these randomized missions, you get different upgrades, you get different extra mods for your guns that give them abilities to hit people behind cover or crazy stuff that makes it where you can do special abilities more often. I think this game is cool. The problem is that the more you play it, the more it feels like a lot of it is just straight up useless. So let me explain each fight. So whenever you're doing these missions, the 2 words you need to constantly keep in mind are sync and finesse. Now, essentially what this means is that there's an ability that when you're running around in Metal Slug Tactics, on your turn, you can move and you can attack. Now you have to move before you attack. As soon as you shoot somebody or do a special ability or whatever, your turn is over. But you can do it for each of your 3 people. So when you move, the further you move, the more defense you get. So if you run the furthest ability you possibly can, or if you go behind cover, you get a big defensive buff. It will actually absorb damage. Now, your characters cannot take much hits. I mean, it's very much like the old school game. If you get blasted, you go down pretty quick. So you do need to try and move every single turn. So even if you're just trying to run like behind your buddies or in a random direction, that bonus defense is incredibly crucial. But the other part of this tactic is sync. So any character can usually shoot anybody at any time, right? You shoot in straight lines. So as long as you're lined up, you can easily try to take out people. The enemies don't have very much health either, but if you line up 2 of your teammates on one target simultaneously, they'll both shoot. So a lot of times you can move everybody in position, completely surround a strong unit, and then take turns shooting. The other people will automatically pitch in. So instead of doing 1 3 damage shot, you could do a 9 damage shot 3 times with each of your party members. It's a very, very cool mechanic. I think all of this works incredibly well. The problem is that this only works well for the ranged characters. Now, this is the one part of it I think is the most bafflingly bad. As you beat the game, as you complete the campaigns and try the higher difficulties and stuff, you unlock additional characters. Some of them are melee focused. Some of them are explosive focused. And in my experience of actually testing these people out, they suck. I mean, maybe there's some depth to it I don't understand, but making melee characters do barely more damage than ranged characters. It makes their sinks harder. It makes running up to enemies tougher. They get surrounded quicker. I just think having melee unlockable characters is bafflingly bad. Like, yeah, the explosive characters have problems as well, but at least they're usable. At least they can do some spray damage and stuff. I am confused as to why. To be honest, my biggest gripe with this game is that all of the unlockables just don't feel good, and it's not exciting to get them. So let me rewind a bit and talk a bit about how the missions play out. So I mentioned the fact that you're going to be doing these randomized quests, where every time you pick a map, you have these randomized objectives, but you also have randomized rewards. So in each run, your characters level up and your characters unlock stuff. So every time you finish a mission, there's a main quest and a sub-quest. It's an optional thing. So it's basically stuff like don't get hit, don't get downed, kill the people in like 3 turns, stuff like that. But doing these is fun. Getting that XP, getting those experience points, and actually unlocking new passive skills. So you have extra defense, or the mana system is called adrenaline. You can have stuff where you can actually spend enough adrenaline to get extra turns and stuff. I think the stacking passives, the stacking experience points, that stuff is incredibly fun. Each individual run of this game has been such a blast. My problem is that as you finish it, whenever you die, whether it is at the last boss or if you finish the game or whatever, you get these special coins, which are then used to buy additional upgrades. This can be different loadouts for the particular characters or extra mods that may pop up in future runs. Like one of the ones I think is my favorite is called No Cover. It makes it where essentially even if somebody is ducked behind a barrier, you can still hit them and it doesn't negate damage at all. Or there's also ones where if you're behind cover, you automatically do 2 extra damage, which in a game where 3 damage is a basic hit, it basically doubles your damage per turn. I think this game is cool, but after a couple runs, I realized that pretty much all the upgrades, all the extra benefits, a lot of the extra characters, they blow. And to me, that does damper the excitement. Like, I put about 8 hours in this so far, and the basic characters that you begin with are the most fun. In fact, a lot of their upgraded builds, so they have like a sniper rifle instead of an AK-47, or a bigger grenade launcher that can stun people instead of a normal grenade launcher that just hurts the heck out of them. A lot of the upgrades just don't feel good. And I gotta say, that's one of the worst aspects of any game, is when you actually grind and try and you're really wanting to upgrade the characters you like most, but they don't feel like they're getting stronger. It just doesn't feel good. Now, let me talk about the zones and let me wrap up with a final complaint, which is about the controllers. So, you can play this on PC, which is what I've been doing. As I do this review, I've had this weeks before launch, so currently it doesn't work on Steam Deck. And I will admit that that's the thing I kind of wanted to test the most, because I play roguelikes literally every single day on the treadmill. My girlfriend and I call it cardio and carnage. So I'll play some sort of roguelike on the treadmill, and whenever I win or lose or die, that's when I get off. So it's a very fun motivator to kill time and kill calories, right? Well, this game's controller support feels incredibly bad. The way you actually use the different stuff to move around the mouse, to attack people and stuff, you confirm attacks with the triggers, you select the type of attack with the D-pad, it feels incredibly busted. Maybe it's possible to go in there and retool every single button, but it just does not feel good. If you have the option to play this on PC or to play this on your console, I'd still probably say get it on PC. It doesn't look like it's a hardware pusher. I definitely think it's better with a mouse and keyboard. But also, additionally, this is coming to Game Pass. They actually just announced this right as I was writing the script, but it is coming to Xbox Game Pass. So honestly, I think this game has a very, very strong first 3 or 4 hours. That first run of kind of figuring things out, that all feels really good. So still, if you have an Xbox, if you have Game Pass, definitely check it out. Hopefully it's for Game Pass for PC as well. But my other issue with this game, or my other part of this game that I think is interesting that doesn't really feel fully fleshed out, is the zone system. So the game is kind of broken down into acts, but you can do them in any order you want. So at the start, you begin in like a deserted area, but later on you can go to like mummies' tombs or a jungle or a big city. And these are all cool, but I do feel like something about this, they do kind of feel a bit quirky in a way that just doesn't fully vibe with me. Because one of the things is, doing these in any order, some feel tougher than others. Like, maybe I'm mistaken here, but trying to do the mummy's tomb pretty much first and having to deal with the curse system and getting turned into mummies yourself and having to actually fight the undead as the undead, that one's pretty easy. But if you begin in the city or in the jungle, you'll run into people that have way, way stronger melee than you do and will chop you up. I think the system is a bit strange because you can pretty much go right to the last boss. Now, this is kind of interesting, but whenever you're on the zone maps, the way it works is that essentially you have to do at least 3 missions. Do at least 3 missions, and then the boss shows up. But after you finish the first boss, you can just go straight to the final zone. I think that's an interesting mechanic, but something about the balancing here still just doesn't quite feel right. It feels like trying to level skip. I don't know. It feels like if you were playing Hades, you can go straight to Hades. I think on paper it's an interesting idea, but it still doesn't really make sense. Every time I've attempted it, I immediately get my butthole blown out. So I really don't fully get the point. But I don't know. I like this game more than I don't like this game. I think my issues are just with the balancing, and I wish the upgrades were more fun. Just give me some raw bonuses. Let me just buy extra health, extra damage, real basic stuff, even if it's just by like 5%. Let me dump my cash on stuff that's not just randomized mods, or let me actually buy upgrades that feel better than some quirky, crazy, special, passive package pack that to me just doesn't even feel good. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. I still think this game is very much worth playing. I think it's $15. I'll put whatever the price is on screen. Even if you don't super love this game, I did have a good time with it for the first like 80%, and then not so much. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Oh my god, the last boss in this game is such a pain, by the way. If you get to him, multi-phase last bosses, man. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.